Hi, and welcome back to Thinking Kingdom Thoughts. I'm Tracy, and I'm just so thankful that you join me every week and that you've been watching the testimonies for this season. And we have a special one today. Please welcome the mother of six,
Almost 7.
almost 7, Carol.
Hi.
She is such a precious girl in our group. We met through Grafted Church, and man, I'm telling you, your kids are pretty fantastic. Your two oldest, and they're all doing flags now. It seems like even the little tiny one this week.
They all want me to make them a set.
Yeah, and very good at flags. Not just playing around with them; they're good.
They're
at
dancing.
it. Yeah, and so you make them now too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And of course, I've heard her sing too, so I know she can sing.
I really like to sing.
Yeah, and you're good. You're very good. Any way that we can worship the Father, I think it's great when He gives us the gifts to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, would you mind leading us out in prayer?
All right. I'm not always very comfortable praying in front of people, so I'm going to just be simple.
Okay.
Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for getting me here safely. I'm going to say thank you for the rain, but maybe 3 or 4 days is enough.
Yeah.
We could have some sun now. Father, help me know what to share that accomplishes your purpose, that glorifies you, and that bears fruit in your kingdom, that feeds others. And help me not get hung up on anything about my life that has my own agenda or my own selfish emotions attached to it. I want to put myself aside. I want my purposes to be put aside, and I want your purposes to be accomplished. And you're just going to have to walk me through every single little tiptoe step of the way of that. Yeshua's name be praised. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, it's easy for us to get into our own agendas.
Well, we all have our own feelings about our own lives.
Right, yeah. And, that's just us being human beings. So, it's good to get that prayer in to ask that it glorify Him. Yeah. So how long has your walk been with Yah?
I don't remember a time that I didn't know who God was.
Wow.
When I was born into a family that grew up my parents grew up in church. I would say that it was like a typical American Christian family. We're in church, but there's no chain breaking freedom. There's none of that. It's a little bit small town, Jesus, Guns, and John Wayne.
Yeah, right. I can relate to that.
That's how I grew up. But I wouldn't say I didn't feel like I was walking with God when I was growing up. I knew I was a Christian kid. I knew I was a homeschooled kid. I knew we did house church. But I thought that God made me... I thought that God made me defective. And I didn't understand why He did that to me. Why did He make me bad?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of thought He just made people and then was like, all right, you can only be this kind of person to please me, and I just wasn't it.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt about God growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I had that too. I read in Deuteronomies where it said that, an illegitimate child was cast out for like 10 generations or something like that. And I'm like, wow, the only chance I don't have a chance now. And it wasn't until, you find out that Jesus saves all. And that's when but for a lot of years, I thought I was not significant.
I remember asking for my mom and dad to pray with me some more, to ask Jesus into my heart again when I was 8 or 7. And I remember they always looked at me like, "What? Why are you like this?"
Yeah.
Like, they always looked at me like they just didn't understand me like that. Like, where did I come from? Like, I came from outer space. And I remember them looking at me like that. And I was like, I'm so bad. I'm a bad person. I'm not good enough. I don't think he saved me. I have to pray it again. And they were like,
right.
I'm sure you're fine. I don't feel fine.
Yeah.
And I do remember my dad saying, I felt like that when I was that age. I thought I had to pray again.
Yeah, I did that. I did the same thing. Yeah, I was just telling someone else with another interview that I felt that way, and but I was watching TV preachers, and so each time they brought up that altar call, I was like, I got to say this prayer again. I really want this to stick. I want God to know that I really mean what I'm saying here. You know, so. So what is your kingdom thought during difficult times?
That's a new thing for me, even having that. I've had a lot of really bad thoughts for difficult times. A lot of bad perspectives. In the past couple of months, that has boiled down to, it is not going to get easier. It is not going to get more prosperous feeling necessarily. It's not going to, the difficulties are not going to stop coming. So I guess I just better learn to have the fruit of the Spirit regardless.
Yeah.
And I knew that before, but that didn't seem like a possibility. That didn't seem like something that I could really wrap my head around and actually put into practice. Yeah. And so just in the past couple of months, I was like...
Yeah, when you start making it functional for yourself, it really, it's amazing to watch it and experience it.
Yeah, and there are times leading up to there where you just, it doesn't seem like it's within your reach.
Yeah.
It was something people talked about. It was not something that I knew how to do. And I was like, okay, I actually think that this is going to become a reality. I don't think I'm going to get to have an easier lifestyle. I don't think that it's going to get easier for any of us. It's just going to get harder.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I think that if we're facing the end of times, there's going to be tribulations and things that's going to be very difficult.
And maybe we're not facing the end of times, but have you ever read a history book? Because
empires
have risen and fallen, and people have had prosperity, and then it's all just been taken away, and it's collapsed, and eventually every society goes through. Every first world society anyway. And really, honestly, all the other countries that are under more persecution than we are, spiritually speaking, they are stronger than we are. So I figure I better just buck up.
Romania, I think, is just coming out of that, being able to worship and pray and have services where a few years ago there had to be someone from the government in there monitoring your services. And that's something. So how did you get started being tour observant?
I think it was in the end of 2018. I had gone through a divorce when I never thought that was going to be okay. I used to think that God was going to just be done with me if I ever got a divorce. Thought that was like the unpardonable sin. And I had gone through a divorce, met someone else, gotten pregnant, and then got married. So being raised in a Christian home my entire life, obviously I knew better than that, right? Obviously I knew better than that. But I didn't seem to have any self-control. I didn't seem to have any desire to make decisions that fell in line with what pleases God. I didn't,
Yeah.
like I said, it was one of those things other people talked about and I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
So I had gotten married, had another baby. I had 5 kids at the time, and it was one of those moments in the shower. You always wind up with these moments in the shower.
Yeah. That's I'm so done.
I was crying. I was praying. And I started just like pouring out this prayer. I don't know you, God. I don't love you, and I should. Why don't I love you? Why do other people love you and I don't love you? I don't even see the world the way you see it. I know that I don't. I don't have any compassion for the world the way you have compassion for it. I don't know the truth about you. I don't know the truth about me. I don't know the truth about how you see things. It was just all coming out of me, and I was thinking about how I had gotten pregnant. We had moved in together, and then we had gotten married.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, my life doesn't look any different than anybody else's life. How am I one of your children if I don't look like anybody else? You know, I don't look different. I don't look different than how everybody else is doing things.
Yeah.
That really bothered me. I was pouring all of that out. And then I moved on with life. And a couple of months later, it was February 2019, my brother started sending me YouTube videos. Rob Skiba YouTube videos.
Oh, wow.
It was Archon invasion. It was about the Nephilim.
Yeah.
That's what he started sending me.
Yeah.
So that was like 2 different 2-hour YouTube videos. And then I started going, okay, that's cool. I like this. I'm going to look for more. And I looked for more YouTube videos. Eventually, I found my way to his website, The Ephraim Awakening. And he had the Deuteronomy 12 test. And it said, read at your own risk in parentheses.
Oh, yeah.
And I am, who I am.
Risk taker.
So I was like, oh, I have to read that. I have to. And I was kind of laughing at myself, too. Like, as soon as I read that title, read at your own risk, well, I got to read that. I got to know what's in there. So I read it, and he's talking about how he put on Facebook, he said, a man who loves his wife very much, she cheats on him and leaves him. And he chases her down at great personal cost to himself, gets her back home, and she starts celebrating his birthday on her ex-lover's birthday. And she says, I'm only thinking of you, honey. I'm only thinking of you, dear. But I'm doing it for you. It just happens to be on this day. So he puts that up on Facebook, and he lets people kind of go bonkers. Yeah. That guy should leave that woman. He shouldn't put up with that disrespect.
Yeah.
And he said only a couple people got it. Yeah. And then he starts listing all this scripture, like I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and he has all these huge blocks of scripture. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And Tanner was in the living room with me, and I said, crap. And he's like, yeah. I said, okay, well, I can't celebrate Christmas anymore. If you want to, you can, but I'm not going to. And I don't really want it in the house.
Yeah.
Or Easter. And I'm not really going to eat any unclean stuff like pig. And I started laying it out on him. And Tanner's super chill. I'm really grateful for him.
Yes.
That he was like this, because he was like, okay.
Oh, wow. That's so fantastic.
We had fights later about when we would go out to restaurants, and he'd be like, well, I'm getting seafood, and it's going to be, he would get the unclean stuff. He would get, all that yummy shrimp and little tiny octopus.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even know. And I'd be like, no, you can't eat that.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, I'm eating it.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't bring it home.
Yeah.
We didn't have it at home.
Until he finds out that it's actually shrimp, isn't that like the roach of the ocean?
Yeah. He doesn't eat any of it anymore. He finally made his own decision.
Yeah.
I guess he hadn't really made the decision for himself then, but he was so chill about it.
Yeah.
That I didn't even really realize that. He was just like, all right, whatever you want.
Right.
That was
wow.
That was February 2019. How long ago was that now?
This is 20.
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's when I started, and I had to figure out doing Shabbat
Right.
That was, I remember feeling like, oh, I wasn't prepared. Every time Shabbat hit, I was like, I'm not prepared for this at all.
Yeah. Then we learn what they mean by prep day.
Yeah. And I'm still honestly not that prepared, but I feel like I kind of have a rhythm going, like where I get my groceries before Saturday.
Yeah.
And I get snacks for church and stuff. But back then we were doing it at home, and we started doing the biblical holidays at home. And then eventually we found a congregation, and we've just been slowly learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been about 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting for the fruit of the tree to not be bitter anymore, I guess. What is it, the 4th year?
Right.
The 4th year the tree's
Right,
fruit
that's
isn't bitter
when-
anymore.
That's when we're allowed to eat, is on the 4th year after you plant something.
Yeah.
On your trees. And really, I mean, that gives the, if you look at the horticulture side of things, that's really is better for the tree all the way around, nutrition wise, and all that for us too. So,
Yeah.
I think if you take, if you would test it, I would think there would be a huge difference there. But I haven't really heard of a study for that. Have you?
I don't know.
Comparing 1 year to the 4th year.
I don't know a lot of people that do trees anymore.
Yeah, that would be interesting. If anybody has heard of that, I would be interested to
Yeah.
know. Leave it in the comments and let us know. So, what is your favorite scripture?
Right now, I got it from the Lisa Turkhurst Forgiving What You Can't Forget study.
Uh-huh.
And right now it's 2 Peter 1:3. This is the NET version.
Okay.
I can pray this because his divine power has bestowed on us everything necessary for life and godliness through the rich knowledge of the one who called us by his own glory and excellence.
Wow.
And I was like, that's kind of a big statement.
Yeah, that's huge.
Everything you need for a holy life is just through the knowledge of the Messiah.
Wow, that's profound.
That's why I'm reading the Gospels, because I'm like, maybe I don't know the Messiah very well.
Yeah,
I don't think I do.
yeah,
That's my goal. My goal right now is to get to know that Messiah so well that I feel like I'm just walking hand in hand with him.
and that's exactly, I think, what his plan is for us to get to know him, and then we have a better. It makes decision making so much easier.
It says that
Because-
the knowledge of him is
Yeah.
is the outpouring of everything that we need. That's what it says. That if we know who he is, then we know how we're supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And then we can make it a function in our life.
Yeah.
And show it as fruit. Yeah. So, would you mind sharing your testimony with us?
Yeah. Let's see. I feel like I don't know what my testimony, like, bottom line is. Because I'm still in the middle of having babies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I'm up to my elbows in diapers and I'm still raising other people's testimonies.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So far, one part of the testimony is that I was raised so inhibited and afraid of worship. We didn't do raised hands. We didn't do dance. We did not do, I mean, it's not like, it's not like it was barred. It wasn't not allowed. We just didn't do it. We were a house church in people's living rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad played the guitar, and sometimes another guy who actually used to be in a band, I think he was actually kind of famous, at least locally, and he played the saxophone. And so sometimes he would get out his saxophone. Sometimes we had somebody on the piano, really low key music.
Yeah.
So we did singing. We didn't do dancing in a living room full of people.
Right.
And we didn't do raised hands, and we didn't do, and it didn't look like what you'd expect worship in a church to look like. It doesn't mean that these people were not worshiping.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it was way, way low key. And so I grew up incredibly inhibited. I didn't want to, I remember getting over dancing in front of people, and I'm still getting over singing in front of people.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want to be a show off. My mom was always like, Steve, stop. You're just being a show off. You're just showing off.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's great at being in the spotlight. My dad, he's great at being in the spotlight. So I grew up with my dad being great at being in the spotlight and my mom being like, that's enough. That's
Right.
enough.
Right. Yeah, that's a difficult balance. That's
So
two
I
extremes.
I have this feeling like, oh, I kind of want to be in the spotlight. And then I'm like, well, but no, I don't want to be a show off.
Right.
So I have a hard time with that still.
I think there's a happy medium. As long as you're doing it to worship him and you're singing to him
Yes.
and you're glorifying him,
That's right.
you're not going to go wrong.
That's right.
You know?
But when I start to sing, when anybody's watching, all I can think about is somebody's watching me.
Oh, yeah, that's difficult.
Just because I get nervous and
Yeah.
I used to get the worst stage fright. We did karaoke a couple of times, me and my dad, and I had terrible stage fright. I have always been very self-conscious, and I did grow up in a hypercritical environment. So I grew up constantly thinking, at any moment, I'm going to do something stupid. This is actually really scary for me because
The other people out there.
people
that's
are going to
see
watch it, and I could say something stupid.
Yeah. And then we'll laugh, right? I mean, we all say stupid stuff.
Oh,
you
but
know.
I feel like I've spent my whole life putting my foot in my mouth. So this is
But
nerve-wracking.
it's from that critical spirit that you grew up with.
It tends to get
yeah.
worse. Yes, the more nervous I am, the more dumb things I say. That's true. So that has changed exponentially in me from my life. I've also come out of. I'll start it this way. I listened to a podcast once that explained that there were 8 categories of abuse. 8 categories of ways that people can abuse another person.
Oh, wow.
And I've had some form of every single one of them happen to me.
Wow.
So I came out of that in childhood and I thought, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go get married because I was taught, you're a girl, you can leave when you get married, pretty much. You know, it's
Right.
not safe for you to leave otherwise, and it would just be rebellious if you did. And that was kind of the message that I got. So I thought I have to get married to get out of here. So I was 18 and I married a guy who was 9 months younger than me. And I was thinking about it. I think I married him for 3 reasons. 1, he was a sociopath and he was working me over. He was manipulating me.
Yeah.
I felt indebted to him already. Like
Oh, wow.
I felt like I owed him.
Yeah.
Also, he felt comfortable because being treated like that felt kind of normal.
Right.
And I also thought he was going in the military, so I thought this is going to get me approval.
Oh,
I'm going to win approval.
right.
My dad was in the Marines. My grandfather was in the Army. My other grandfather was in the Navy.
Yeah.
I thought, this is a good choice. This is a good idea.
Yeah.
It was a bad idea. It was a terrible idea.
Yeah. I've been a military wife and a mother. And I think being the mom is the harder. Right. Yeah.
The military wasn't so bad. What happened was I married somebody who was still coming into his own, and he was turning into a sociopath.
Wow.
I think there's signs at that age. I'm not sure that you can fully, if you look up the diagnostic criteria of a sociopath, my ex-husband fits it.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
stayed with him for 12 years.
Does doing drugs affect a person and
Makes it
make
worse.
them seem more sociopathic than what they would normally be? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think he got crazier. It became more overt. It became more outwardly violent. There was more violent episodes when he was coming down off of drugs. There was a lot more crazy stuff that happened. But when I went back after the divorce and I kind of talked to his high school friends and stuff, he was a pathological liar and cheater and thief
Oh, wow.
right from then. And he was manipulating everyone around him right from then. And so I'm like, okay, drugs made it worse, but he can't blame the drugs. And he can't blame the military, which is what he does blame.
Yeah.
He says, oh, I have PTSD and so you have to excuse all of my behaviors. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
that's-
you crazy.
Yeah. No, you crazy.
He's crazy. And it got really bad. Our marriage got
Yes, it would.
really bad. I wound up homeless.
Oh my gosh.
My parents wound up with the older 3 kids. CPS wound up taking the 4th baby.
Wow.
And there came a point in time where he got arrested for the bajillion warrants that they had out for him. They wanted him so bad in that town. They were so done with him.
Yeah.
He was a menace.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to catch him. Like, I think it almost became personal for some of those cops.
Yeah. Oh wow.
They wanted him real bad. And they got him. And they put him in jail for only a couple of months, unfortunately. But it was just long enough for me to wind up evicted with a suitcase in my pajamas 3 weeks postpartum. And CPS had my baby.
Wow.
And that was all I had. And I went to a shelter, and CPS sat me down, and they were like, here are the requirements for you to start getting your baby back. And they provided the resources, which isn't something I had not had before. They were like, go here and take this drug test.
Yeah.
Call these people and do this thing and go. They set it all up.
Yeah.
I'd never had that before. I'd never had the resources to do what I was being asked to do before.
Yeah.
So he was in jail just long enough for me to get that baby back.
Ah.
He got out. He got out a couple of days after they gave me the baby back.
Yeah.
But they were still involved. We did what's called in-home dependency. I moved in with my aunt and uncle because I was in a shelter. I didn't have any place to take a baby.
Yeah.
And I started drug treatment, and through drug treatment, I also had to do Narcotics Anonymous classes, which is where I met Tanner. And I also had to do drug tests. I did all of that, and he got out a couple of days later, and he started calling me, and he started up with the manipulation. You should be with me. You're my wife. God says you should be with me.
Oh wow.
You have to be with your husband. And I was like, what husband? You just took all the money. He got out. He took the disability that he got from the military. He took that card back from me. I said, I can't buy diapers. Can't pay my phone bill.
Yeah.
I only have a few expenses, but he took it all.
Yeah.
And I said, I have to apply for TANF. And he said, don't you dare. They'll come after me for money. And I'm paraphrasing heavily. He said lots of really ugly things.
Oh wow.
Lots of really ugly things to me over that time. And I remember that I was hearing him differently after spending a few months without him.
Yeah.
And I think that God literally rescued my brain
Yeah.
from that situation by keeping us apart that long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Wow. What a gift that really was from God, even though it probably didn't seem like it for him, but it really was for you. It gave you a reprieve to where you were able to
Yes.
get your head on straight, and
I would not have been able to leave him.
yeah.
I know that I wouldn't have been able to leave him. I tried several times, but I was sure that God would not be okay with me getting a divorce.
Yeah.
And
That's hard. I went through
I
that
was
too.
completely
Like
brainwashed.
I searched scripture and searched it like, please give me some kind of an out in this, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that there was no way out. I thought that he would use the one that says, you know, if your husband is happy to stay with you. Well, I mean, looking back at how he treated me,
Yeah.
was he happy to stay with me? No.
Right.
No, that's how you treat people you hate.
Yeah.
That's not how you treat people you love. That was... I was in danger many times from him. I could have died. I definitely got a fractured cheekbone. That was May 2005. I got the fractured cheekbone, and I didn't see anybody for it. But my eye was like exploded with blood, and it was like the worst black eye I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And to this day, if I press on this cheekbone, it feels different than this one. It hurts a little more. It stings.
Yeah.
I'm sure he fractured that cheekbone.
Yeah.
I woke up on the ground.
Wow.
He hit me pretty hard that time. And I think that being hit and kicked and thrown up against walls was even easier than the psychological abuse.
Yeah.
And the times that he would be in my face screaming, "You have to respect me. You have to respect me. God says you have to respect me." And then God got him out of there and got me out of there and kept us apart long enough. And I remember thinking, because he was on the phone screaming it at me, and I had this baby. If I had gone back to him, they would have taken my baby.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember telling him, which one of us is going to tell the baby that he doesn't get to have his mom?
Yeah.
Because you want to have your wife back.
Wow.
And you don't want to have to do drug treatment and anger management and clearing up your warrants and doing your jail time and doing your check-ins. You don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell the baby he doesn't get a mom? He was trying to manipulate me into dropping our child and going back to him.
Wow.
It was awful. And I just got really disgusted, and I was like, this is not godly. How is this godly that I'm supposed to be a submissive wife, but he doesn't have to provide safety or love or a home or partnership, fatherhood? How is this a husband?
Yeah.
That was the first time that I saw that. Before, I was completely brainwashed.
Yeah.
So God rescued me from that. And now I don't necessarily advocate for divorce, but I do think there's a time that can save your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he intended for it to be for a person to stay in an abusive situation at all.
I don't,
By no
yeah,
means.
and I don't think that, I think that if you have been blessed with children or a spouse and you treat them with evil, that at some point God will hear their cries.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way that I view it at this point.
Yeah.
So I've come out the other side of that, and I really didn't start healing from all those different kinds of abuse until just a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
then me and Tanner had to go through our own marriage stuff. We separated for a while.
Mm.
But my marriage to Tanner has taught me a whole different set of lessons where I saw someone turn to God and I saw someone change. I haven't seen a lot of people change in my life.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah.
And to think that maybe our prayers might have had a little something to do with that, because I've seen that myself, and it's amazing.
I did pray for him. I remember a couple of years ago, I have a prayer journal because my brain will wander off when I'm praying.
Oh, yeah.
I have to
I've always
journal
wanted to do a prayer journal, and I just, to sit down and discipline myself, and God will have to help me with that.
Well, today's entry in my prayer journal was May the 25th, and the one before that was May the 13th. So sometimes that happens.
Okay. Don't give up then. Just
No,
keep going.
I know, it goes back years. I've got prayer journals that go back years, and every once in a while there's a big chunk in the middle where I didn't get back into it.
Yeah.
But I tend to wander. My brain wanders. I get interrupted, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do prayer journaling, and I remember there was a couple of months stretch where I got into my prayer journal every single day and begged God on Tanner's behalf. I don't know if he knows that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he knows that I did that. And then there was a time after that I gave up on him.
Yeah.
And because of the 12 years of marriage that I'd had to an abuser,
Yeah.
there was a piece of me that's like, well, am I going to waste another decade?
Right. Right. Sure. And as a woman,
My brain
You
was
do.
like, I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
put my kids through it. I can't waste another decade. This has to change. I just can't do it. So I kind of hardened my heart up, and I filed papers, and I was like done. I was so done.
Mhm.
But actually, it was a big deal for me to see him change. And it was because of how you see prayer work. And also, I am learning boundaries. I'm learning boundaries for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's ever going to change if you constantly enable them to be evil or to be ungodly near you.
Wow.
Maybe they
Yeah.
won't change anyway. Maybe they'll say, well, all right, bye.
Right.
And maybe they'll go off and they'll do their own thing. And maybe they'll just keep going as they've always done. That's what my ex-husband's doing.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah.
He's killing himself. He's going to die.
Yeah.
His heart's giving out. Other parts of his body are giving out. He's in the hospital a lot.
And he's a young man still, right?
He's 30. He's about to turn 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's young.
Wow.
He's got 20% heart function, last I heard.
Oh my goodness.
And he just keeps going out and doing drugs. And so I left him, and his choice has been he's going to do the same thing he's always done, and nothing's going to change that. But I learned we don't have to allow evil into our inner circle.
Yeah.
We don't have to excuse it. We don't have to let it in. And then I went through a struggle of, okay, I don't have to let evil into my inner circle. So that was exciting. I was like, yes, I can do something about this. I can make choices. I can say no. I can decide what I associate with and what I put up with. But that came with bitterness and grudges and offense and rage.
Wow.
And I figured out, okay, I can draw boundaries, but the easiest way to do that is to hate somebody.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. And that's the truth. Because if you're shutting someone off, it's so much easier if you're mad at them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah.
And as soon as I think, okay, I want to forgive them, then I'm like, all right, I'll give them all access passes, and I'll enable them, and I'll excuse them, and whatever. So there was these two extremes, and I did not know how to walk in the middle.
Yeah. And that's a hard time in your life to find that kind of a balance.
That's the kind of thing that is best taught to small children right from the start.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Grow up your whole life with nothing but either enablers or unforgivers.
Yeah.
It's like a foreign language to figure out how to set boundaries with somebody and still be able to forgive them.
Yeah.
Because we think of forgiveness and reconciliation as the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people do.
They're not exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I've been processing, and I've been praying, and I've been asking God specifically, what is forgiveness? What is forgiveness?
Yeah.
And I was dealing with that. I don't even know how long. I think it's been like a year now that I was asking that question. And I was like, okay, what do we do with God? We repent. He forgives. We reconcile. So what are the steps between us and other people? What are the steps?
Right.
Well, for a while there, I thought that they have to repent first.
Oh.
That's what I thought. Because it feels like we don't get any forgiveness from God until we repent, right?
Right. That's how we feel. Yeah.
We're on the outs with him.
Yeah.
But it's there. The forgiveness is there.
Yeah.
He died for it. It's
Right.
waiting. It's there. We just don't really get the benefits of it until we repent.
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand it, and I wound up coming to a point where I feel like God crushed my chest. I don't know how else to describe it. One day there was a situation where he crushed my chest, and I felt like stuff drained out of me, almost physically. And I was completely emptied, and I was cleaned out, and I didn't have any more bitterness. I didn't feel any of it. And I think that he did that to be like, this can happen. You can do this. I can give this to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you still have to go back and do the process over and over and over again, because stuff's going to tick you off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe,
yeah, that does happen.
Maybe
yeah.
other people will get completely delivered of bitterness and unforgiveness all at once, and then it'll never come back. But
I don't think so. I think you're just as normal as the rest
I think
of us.
everybody
Yeah.
pretty much has something that makes them go, now I'm out again.
Right.
Oh man, that just ticked me off.
Yeah.
So I had it all drained out of me for like a week. And I was so tired. I slept for like 3 days.
Wow.
I just kept taking naps. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
All of that had been like fueling me and keeping me on high alert, it was gone, and I was exhausted.
Yeah. Your body was never allowed to just rest and be at
Yes.
peace and have shalom.
Not only that, but I wasn't having dreams anymore.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't having dreams. I wasn't remembering them. I was struggling to fall asleep. And as soon as all of that drained out of me, I was having vivid dreams. I still can't really remember them very well, but
Yeah.
the dreams came back and I was like, that's really weird. I would love to know what the correlation is between dreams
Yeah.
and all that bitterness. That's all that.
Oh.
I don't know. Do you take up all that space in your head with all those thoughts of rage?
Probably, because that's a lot of energy being used up
Yeah, it is.
right there. It really is. And then for us not to be able to even get into that, what do they call that? REM sleep or random eye movement?
Yeah, REM, REM sleep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so
Yeah, I wasn't even having, couldn't remember my dreams. I wasn't sleeping good. And then Shannon started doing the Forgiving What You Can't Forget study with me.
yeah.
And that is a really good study. I only found one question in there that I was like, I feel like she's coming at this with a theology that I don't necessarily agree with, but it wasn't a big deal other than that.
And you'll run into that sometimes because we are
She's kind
Torah
of
observant and
Yeah,
not
she's
everybody
associated
is.
with some TV pastors that are not very popular.
Oh, gotcha.
And that, well,
Yeah.
no, they are very popular. They're not very
Right.
popular for those of us in the Torah community.
Right,
She's
right.
associated with some of them. But this study was really good, and it's been really helpful. I've only got 2 weeks left of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one situation got me into this study, and then it was like, okay, now I'm going to go back all the way to the beginning. And I had this little list of people.
Yeah.
And that's been hard. If you're going to go on a journey of forgiveness, it's exhausting. You're going to like memories start to come up, things start to come to your head, and you're like, how am I just felt so forgiving, and now I just want to wring their neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was doing so good, and it's all gone. Now I have to deal with this one memory, and now I have to deal with this memory, and I'll think, okay, I put that person to bed, and then I'll go deal with this other set of people for a while, and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
And, like,
And they breathed, and that takes some time.
So she says in the study that it's good that we do it one piece at a time, that it's a mercy.
Yeah.
Because if we had to deal with it all at once, it would just crush us.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's good advice.
She also does a lot of focus on making sure that you understand that nobody is trying to shame you for all this pain.
Right.
That you're not in trouble for carrying all this pain. You just, it's understandable. You're not being shaken a finger at. You're not, and that, not only that, but boundaries are imperative. They're not just okay. They're imperative.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there who are like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I grew up with a mom, and this gets thrown out so much that I almost hate to say it, but she was clinically diagnosed as narcissistic.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was the type of mom I had, and I had to learn how to forgive her and move on. And then she would do something, and I would just like, oh.
Yeah, when you have a
now you're back on the list.
close interaction with people like that,
Yeah.
they don't relate to others the way that normal people do.
Yeah.
They can't.
Right.
So you have to make a choice. How much of this can I put up with and maintain peace and forgiveness? And if you can't, you've got to close the door for a while. You've got to, because otherwise you're just, I'll do this thing where I excuse it because I want to make it work, so I'll excuse it.
Yeah.
And then one day I'll be like, I can't excuse this anymore, and then I'll be furious.
Right. That you've allowed yourself to go beyond that boundary. Yeah.
And I have these thoughts in my head like, when I left my first husband, a lot of people looked at me like, what is wrong with her that she put her children in that situation, right?
Oh,
What is wrong with her that she didn't just, that she allowed that to happen to herself. They're looking at me like something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Well, that's embarrassing, and
Yeah.
it's hurtful, and it's ignorant.
Yeah, very ignorant.
Because it lacks any knowledge of what it's like to be brainwashed into abuse.
Yeah.
But so I'm still healing from needing my perspective validated.
Mm-hmm.
And I have trouble letting people think what they're going to think. So sometimes when something is happening, I'm going, I can't let this happen because I can't let this happen to me.
Mm.
And I have a hard time reeling it in, reel it back in, hold on.
The recordings.
The recording in my head is saying, I can't let this happen because now I'm letting this happen to my kid. I'm letting this happen around my kid. I'm being a bad mom. I'm being, or I remember how stupid I felt after I left my first husband, and I found out how much of a life he had behind my back.
Oh, wow.
How much of him I didn't see.
Yeah.
And people either thought that I was in on it, or they were like, that dumb girl.
Right. Yeah.
Neither option is great.
Yeah.
It's either I'm just as bad as him, or they were all just watching me, taking pity on me. Well, I've got pride, same as everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't like how that feels.
Yeah.
So whenever I think somebody's, I'm good at spotting manipulation. I'm pretty good at it. I'm also very good at shoving that to the side and ignoring it and gaslighting myself. I'm very good at telling myself, well, it's probably not what's happening.
Yeah.
And then when I think, okay, this is happening, somebody is trying to manipulate me, I'm so mad.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they think I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And that brings up all that old stuff.
Right.
So this healing process is not done in a day.
No, it's really not.
But I have now, what I have now, I have safety. I remember feeling like I was going to break into tears watching a movie on the couch with Tanner when we first got married. And he turned out to not be the perfect knight in shining armor that I thought that he was, but still.
Yeah.
But still, I knew he wasn't going to put my life in danger. I knew that he was not going to take his anger out on me. And I remember going and like breathing in a tremble.
Yeah.
Because it was sinking in that I was safe.
Yeah. And that's when you start dealing with those things too. Do you find that?
Yes.
That's what I didn't understand. I was finally safe, and then I started dealing with things, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Why did I just see that? Why am I remembering that? This is coming up now, and they say that soldiers do that when they come back from war.
Yeah.
As well. Once they get into a safe place, but in the meantime, you are in reaction mode. All you can do is react. You can't do anything else but that when you're in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my childhood through my 20s, scientifically speaking, my body was being pumped full of adrenaline and cortisol at all times.
Wow.
At all times. Like there was never a time that I was for sure safe.
Yeah. Starting
at about 7 or 8 years old. That was the first time I never felt emotionally safe growing up when I was little, but physically I realized I wasn't safe also at 7 or 8 years old.
Right. Yeah.
So all that cortisol, all that adrenaline has been pumped into my body. And that is complex PTSD built up over time.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to a point where I realized I have to figure out how to stop carrying it. And I keep having babies, and I need to be at peace because they are literally bathing inside my body in everything that I feel. And so that's my kingdom thought for hard times is it has to be joy. It has to be peace. It has to be, because the hard times are not going to stop.
Yeah.
if it's not going to be abuse, which I believe I've been delivered from that. I believe that I don't have to put up with abuse anymore. So I've been delivered of that, but now I need to tell my body that I'm delivered from that, because your body, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. I haven't read it, but people bring it up a lot.
Yeah.
And the title is very
Telling.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very telling. The body keeps the score. Your body will remember, even if your brain doesn't.
Wow.
Your body will remember what you've been through. And so I have to somehow, and I've been through several different kinds of therapy.
Yeah.
And I've been through different kinds of treatment. There's talk therapy, there's therapists that come at it with their own specialty. I've been through some marriage counseling. Not that marriage counseling works when you're with a sociopath.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no point. It doesn't help. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
But I've been through lots of different kinds of therapy and different avenues. And I can say that those things were all really helpful. But until God gets in there and deals with what is inside you, I don't really think you get free.
Yeah, I agree. We got to have him in our life. We really do. And put him center. And once he's in the center of our life, try and keep him there, because we do adjust boundaries in our lives and allow for that drifting to sometimes happen, but we have to just keep going back to that center again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get to a place where I feel like I'm totally at peace, and then I'll kind of ride it for a couple of days. Like, oh, I feel fine now. I feel great. I feel fine.
Yeah.
And I won't pray as much, and I won't do as much Bible study for a
Oh.
couple of days.
Yeah.
And I'll start to get like anxious and upset.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we got to have him every day.
I do this cyclically.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to when you have a bunch of little kids.
Oh, yes. I don't know how you do it, really. Oh. That right there, wow.
I just tell people whatever they think that I'm doing, I'm probably not doing.
Yeah.
Diapers are getting changed.
Mm-hmm.
People's clothes get changed, but most of the time they run around in whatever they want to wear at home.
Yeah.
And I'll spend all day saying, hey, can you put underwear on?
Right.
Can you put pants on?
Yeah.
We don't do hair brushing every day.
Mm.
They like to take baths,
Yeah.
but I don't get in there and make sure they're washed every time.
Right.
Sometimes I'm just like, can you please not flood the bathroom?
Right.
I don't want to have to go clean it up.
Yeah.
Please be careful.
Don't hurt yourself.
It's a lot. They get fed, but it's not always a real meal.
Yeah. No, who wants to cook 3 meals a day?
I do not
That's-
want to cook 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
I do not like to cook.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it if I don't have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And when my mom and dad had my older 3 kids and I hadn't had the 4th baby yet, that was about a year and a half of time that I didn't have any kids at all.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of cooking then.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah. My sister cooked 3 meals a day, but she only had 1 child.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, it really is.
And that was probably the scariest, worst time of my life, was when I didn't have any of the kids.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I was going to see them again. I didn't get any visits.
Wow.
Because family court, I don't know if it's like this in other states, but in Washington, family court, you have to figure out how to file and ask for visits. You have to figure out how to you have to figure out how to navigate family court if you
Yeah.
don't have a lawyer.
Yeah.
They don't assign you one. So actually, when God sent CPS to take my 4th baby, him involving CPS for me was him sending in someone who would assign me a lawyer and tell me what to do to fix the situation.
Right. You needed
CPS
resources. Yeah.
CPS is legally, they're legally bound to help you figure out how to navigate.
Oh, nice.
I mean, they can mess with you. The social workers can mess with you. They can lie to you, and they can make it difficult for you. And they did a little bit, but mostly they have to provide you with all of the resources for whatever they're asking you to do.
Yeah.
If they want you to do certain things to prove that you're a safe parent, they have to provide that to you to do.
Yeah.
And they have to tell you what's expected of you. And you are legally given a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's family court and someone takes you to family court for custody of your kids, you don't get a lawyer. You don't get anything.
Wow.
Nobody tells you what to do. And I didn't know what to do. So that lasted, I counted it, that lasted 20 months, I think, or 21 months. I didn't see the older 3 kids.
Wow.
That was the most,
Oh, heart-wrenching.
that was the worst. And you would think that it would have gotten easier for me not having kids to take care of, but it was like my ex-husband sort of expanded to fill up all that space.
Yeah.
He got much worse.
Yeah.
And I remember going to court with my parents because they took us to court.
Mm-hmm.
And I was praying and asking, what do I do? What do I do? Because the trial was coming up. And I really thought that I heard God say, just do what your husband says. And I thought, well, this definitely confirms, all this stuff that I believed about marriage, that I didn't get to make any choices and that I didn't get to disagree with him and that I was like property. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And that seemed to confirm it to me. I thought, okay, well, that's what I heard. I heard it. I have to do it. And I've gone back over that moment over and over and over again. Did I hear that? Was I wrong? It was very confusing for me after I split with him. That was very confusing for me.
Yeah.
My relationship with God was thrown into complete confusion.
Yeah.
But I just realized recently I probably did hear that because I sat down, I bowed my head to him, and I let him run the show, and he ran himself out of rope. Right now, I have 4 children that are biologically his, and he does not have one little jot, tittle, iota, nothing. He has no access to them.
Yeah.
Not unless I say so.
Right.
And I'm watching other people who have gone through divorces with abusive people.
Yeah.
And their children are still
Right.
getting jerked around
Yes.
by the abusive ex-spouse.
Yeah.
That's not happening to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why isn't it happening to me? I feel guilty. I feel like, man, I feel bad for these people. Why isn't this happening to me? The only thing that I can think of is I wonder if laying down and letting someone trample you is the way that God comes in and blows his trumpet and fixes everything for you.
They say that you got to be at your lowest and he can be at his most powerful then. Yeah.
I don't know, but the same thing happened with my parents. They had my kids, they had custody, they wanted me to pretty much lay down and grovel, and I did.
Yeah.
I did that for 4 years. They interfered a lot. They criticized a lot. They were pretty controlling.
Yeah.
There was a lot of really difficult parts of that relationship. They interfered a lot with my parenting and my marriage and just a lot.
Yeah. And kids pick up on that.
It was,
which makes it even more difficult.
it was not that healthy, and I did not enjoy it. I was kind of tied up in knots all the time trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I remember panicking and thinking, I need to take them to court and get custody back. I need to fix this, because they kept custody after they gave me my kids back.
Oh, wow.
And I would bring it up to them and they'd be like, you don't need custody, just drop it.
Wow.
So it felt like this anvil being hung over my head, because
Yeah.
at any moment, they have...
Right. What they see, it might not be.
They could take me back to court, or they could, I don't know. I don't know why they had to hang on to that. There is a control there that's not healthy.
Yeah.
And I felt like, because like I told you, I had gotten away from my husband by then and I had remarried, and I felt like I'm making a fool of myself. I'm just letting people walk all over me. I should stand up for myself. I'm raising these kids. I'm 100% on call. They're in my home.
Yeah.
We are a family. Tanner's providing for them. I'm the one that has to get up in the middle of the night when somebody puked. Why don't I have custody of these kids?
Right. Yeah.
So I kept waiting for God to tell me what to do. And then one day I realized it's time to put up a boundary and I needed to have distance from my parents. And that's when I found out that in the court's eyes, the kids had been with me for 4 years by then.
Uh-huh.
There was nothing they could do.
Oh, good.
They wanted to, but they couldn't.
Wow.
They asked, I guess, the way I heard it was they asked their lawyer if they could go to court and demand visitation because they still had custody. And I guess the lawyer told them that they would have been laughed at because I'd been taking care of my kids for 4 years. So those are two instances where I felt like someone else had control over me. I felt like I was being a doormat, and I felt like I was being really dumb and that I should stand up for myself. I felt really embarrassed about how much of my life was being interfered with by other people. My ex-husband, just before I left him, and my parents in that instance. And in both of those instances, people looked at me like, why doesn't she just stand up for herself? Why doesn't she just do something? And I didn't do anything. And I was looked at as irresponsible, lazy, looked at as
You were just
weak.
being submissive, is what
I was
you
looked at as
were.
weak, and I was afraid.
Yeah.
And I was being looked at as weak and as giving up my responsibility to, make decisions for myself because I was just weak, I guess.
Yeah.
And in both of those instances, after a couple of years of things being real bad, it was like God closed the door on other people's access to me.
Isn't that amazing? He steps in.
So in my life now, I find myself wondering, maybe I'm fighting too much.
And just give it more to him.
Maybe I'm fighting too much. Maybe we're all fighting too much. And we have a lot of freedom in this country. We have the freedom to fight all kinds of situations. Our spouse, our friends, our legislators, whatever. We have a lot of choices. We have a lot of voice. Or we get on Facebook and we post something and we share about it and we share and we fight and we try to get our voice out there.
Yeah.
But the 2 times in my life that I felt the most powerless are over forever. And I didn't really fight. But I prayed a lot.
Yeah.
And I wonder.
I think that's the key.
I wonder now, because there's situations that I don't like right now.
Yeah.
And I wonder, am I just fighting too hard?
Right. Just give it to him.
Are we all just fighting too hard? Because I've got people that are going through some stuff and I'm starting to think,
Yeah.
And I'm reading through the Gospels. And no, we are not Yeshua. We are not here to die for other people's sins. But if he is our example, he sure laid down for a lot.
Yeah, he did.
He laid down for his friends betraying him,
Oh, man.
for being physically beaten to a pulp, for
Yeah.
being spit on and mocked, which I have been spit on and mocked.
Oh, wow.
I read it and I'm like, yep, that's not easy.
No, it's not.
And he took it knowing exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was so confident and so sure of who he was and who his father was that he just took it. And I wonder, how did that feel for him, knowing full well who he was?
Right.
Because when I was getting spit on, I didn't know who I was.
Yeah, I think the thought of what he was going to go through took him to the human side of himself.
must have
And
felt
he
it.
cried blood,
Yeah, he
blood.
must have felt it.
And so the thought of going through it was hard. But then when he went through it, it was still difficult, for sure. But I think that he gave it to his father.
I wonder if he felt that self-loathing and humiliation that happens when you get spit on.
Right. Well, yeah, because I think that's with anybody.
Because a person, that's how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Or to have your friend walk up to you and greet you and embrace you, and they really just want to destroy you.
Wow.
And they just sold you. Like,
Yeah, kiss you on the cheek.
Yeah, Judas walked up to him and embraced him.
Yeah.
And I don't
Cultures.
different translations have him saying something different to Judas sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
But he
and
said
that's-
something. He said something to Judas about him embracing him and betraying him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went through a prayer time in my prayer journal a couple weeks ago, and I was like, my hand was flying. I was like, you must have felt it. You must have. He walked up to you and he hugged you and he kissed you and he called you his friend, and he had just sold you to death.
Yeah.
And you must have felt it. You said something to him.
Yeah. But then at the same time, it was really what was the whole purpose to begin with.
Yeah, and he knew it.
Yeah.
But we don't always know it.
Right.
So we're supposed to, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
supposed to believe that all things are working,
Right. For the
that God
good.
is in control of all things.
Yeah.
Shannon says God's not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Shannon.
She always she says God's not surprised, which is the same as saying God is in control of all things.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you've learned about the boundaries thing because, as I was saying earlier, my mom was a narcissist, and I left home at 17. And the counselor told me then that you will always be in the role of being the parent and she will be the child. Like, you have to take that persona on to deal with your mom. And that was at 17. And that's really how I took it from then on. Like, I was the one who gave her money. I was the one who took care of her concerns and her burdens. And then before I came out here, I was with another doctor, and I took mom to that doctor, and I was at my wit's end with her. I really was. Like, I just couldn't. I was at the end, and I said, how am I supposed to deal with her? You know her, and you know what I'm dealing with, you know?
Yeah.
And he said, well, she's a little old, but setting up boundaries would be an idea. And I said, what is boundaries? I seriously,
Right.
At an old age, like I was probably in my 40s at that point, did not know what boundaries meant. So I'm so thankful that you're figuring it out a lot earlier than what I did, you know, because it can really help make decisions a lot easier and really
Yes.
get us through some times that if we already know what God's expectation is of us and not try and cross those boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, boundaries are just,
And not allowing others to infringe on those.
yes.
Yeah.
It's just knowing what's acceptable behavior
Mm-hmm.
around you,
Yeah.
which is a combination of right and wrong, and that's universal.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes there's just things that are not okay to be around you, and you just know for yourself
Right.
you just can't deal with certain things
Yeah.
at whatever moment. It's taken me years. I still feel like I wouldn't be able to hold my boundaries around certain family members.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better,
Yeah.
but I still feel like I can't.
I think when you first introduce them to the boundaries, expect that they're going to be angry
Mm-hmm.
because it's not their way anymore.
Right.
And so, but once my mom got past the anger part and enough time had passed, it was a natural flow of things. That
Right.
This is the boundary we don't cross. This is what what she allows and doesn't allow. What's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah, it's when you set a boundary and they kind of
Kick it around a little.
well, they make sure to push your buttons and guilt trip you or kind of rage at you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was running into that all the time with my mom.
Yeah.
If I dared to set the boundary.
Yeah.
Most of the time I just was like rolling over.
Right.
And then I just didn't like being around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like myself. I don't like anything about the situation. So that was like exhausting for me. And I am raising little kids. So I wonder how much of that is just I don't have energy.
Well,
I don't have
and keep
energy
in
for
mind
it.
too that you're their example
Yes.
of, you've got daughters that are watching to see what a woman is to
Yeah.
walk out looking like, and you're teaching that son, what am I looking for in my own spouse,
Mm-hmm.
and those are things to keep in mind as, but the energy level, I don't know how to help you with that. I just don't know.
I actually spend a lot of time in my day making sure that I remember to take my supplements, drink my drink that makes me feel better, balances my blood sugar.
Yeah.
It actually kind of bugs me. I feel like an old lady. I'm like, I am structuring my day around making sure that I can take like 16 pills before bed.
Right.
And I've got to take I got this drink that I try to drink before the day's over, and when I start my day, I want coffee.
Right. Yeah, me too.
I feel
love
like,
coffee.
oh man, we're gonna go camping. I have to take a whole box of pills.
Right.
And they're not like medications, they're just supplements.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanner's always like, there she goes, taking a fistful of pills.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, maybe get a pill box,
Yeah.
and then you'll remember whether you took them or not. When you thought you did, you open it up and you look.
I just take them all
what's
before
helped
bed.
me. Oh, okay.
Which I wind up at this point where I'm like, oh, I'm already past too tired. Now I have to get up and I have to go take all those pills.
Yeah.
And I have to make myself, because if I don't, I mean, maybe I could skip one night, but
Yeah.
there's probiotics, there's magnesium,
the magnesium's so important for the restless leg.
there's turmeric, there's a prebiotic.
I've never heard of
vitamins.
prebiotic.
It's
I've heard of probiotics.
Like good bacteria.
Okay.
It's extra good bacteria that
Okay.
gets deposited in your gut when you take it, I think.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. It's something to that effect. It adds good bacteria to your gut.
Yeah.
So if I stop taking them, I always think it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I can go a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I will start to feel very, very not good.
Yeah.
And that's because I am always nursing and I'm frequently pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always say to Tanner, you don't know what it's like to have none of your nutrition be just for yourself.
Right. That's true. That is true. I think about you a lot with, because at one point you had 2 nursing. Do you still have 2 nursing and then 1 on the way?
I have 1 nursing now and 1 on the way, and then there will be 2 nursing again.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
I started with Lincoln when I got him back from foster care. I had almost dried up. I nursed him as much as I could in our visits.
Yeah.
But he was 2 months old and I'd almost dried up.
Wow.
It took me
Yeah.
about a month. Mother's milk tea, and I started him nursing and then would give him a bottle to finish him off. And I would nurse every time we were snuggling and before bed. And so that stimulated milk production, and I went back to exclusively breastfeeding after a month of having him back.
Yeah.
And then I nursed him, and he didn't want to quit.
Yeah.
I got pregnant with Winona. He kept nursing. He was 3, almost 3 when she was born, and he kept nursing for quite a while.
Wow.
I finally, when I got pregnant with Zipporah, was like, you have to stop.
Yeah.
And then it was just Winona nursing. And then I had Zipporah, and it was Winona and Zipporah nursing.
Wow.
And then I got pregnant this time, and I finally told Winona, you're too big.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
She goes, but I still want to. Okay, but you're big. Like, you're a string bean. You're talking full sentences. You have really sharp teeth.
Right.
We're done.
Yeah. Not only that, but there's always a developmental something that happens when you let go of one thing. Something new starts happening.
Yeah.
And for her at a young age, and if we would have learned this at a young age, that it's not always about me.
It's time for the next baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was nursing Zipporah yesterday, and I said, are you ready to share the boobies with the new baby? Because you're going to have to share. And she goes, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I hope so.
Right.
Because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because she was getting jealous. She was telling Winona, my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Winona was in the crook of my arm, and she came and laid right on Winona, and she goes, my spot! My spot!
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, okay, well, I hope that the baby doesn't
Yeah.
upset you, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah,
I was
it
worried about that with Winona because Winona is very demanding. She's not spoiled. I don't give her anything the other kids didn't get,
Yeah.
but she is so sure of herself.
Uh-huh.
She doesn't care if I say it's not hers. She doesn't care if she feels that she's got a right to something. She will fight tooth and nail. She will bulldoze you. And the other ones were not like that.
Yeah.
She is different. She is something else. So I was really worried about Zipporah coming along, and I didn't need to be worried.
Right.
Zipporah came along, and I was like, "This is your baby sister," and she was like, "I want to hold my baby," and
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah, and with older families too, even Dolly Parton wrote about when you,
Big family.
yeah, she did have a big family, and each one of the girls, like the oldest daughter, would then take care of the one that was born, and then the next oldest, when another one came along, that was her baby to help take care of, and then it just went down through.
Yeah.
And I remember going on dates with my sister and things, and that was exactly the pattern that my mom had taken. You know, my brother went with our oldest sister. I went with the next to the oldest sister, you know, and I suppose if mom would have continued after me, but I was the baby of 12, so she was kind of done.
Yeah.
You know, at 38 years old. Yeah. So.
I asked Ava if she thought that I was going to have any more babies.
Uh-huh.
She said, "I think you're going to have one more." And I was like, "What?"
Oh.
And she goes, "Maybe when this one's a little older." No, I'm 34.
Right. Yeah.
Not when this one's a little older.
Yeah.
I'll be way older.
Right.
I don't want to have a baby at 40.
Yeah. And what we put in God's will, though, you know, He has compassion and gives us strength for all of it, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I did not want to have another baby right now.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to. I wanted a break.
Yeah.
But
Which is understandable.
yeah,
Too.
I don't think
At
there's
one
anything
time.
wrong with me for wanting a break.
No.
But I did want a break. And the thing that I hang on to when having all these kids drives me nuts is, for one thing, they were taken away from me, my older ones. They were taken away from me. The stigma that comes with that, the shame, the depression, the list of ways it negatively impacted me as the mother
Yeah.
and them as the children, huge. So there's a piece of me that's like, who am I to complain when my children were taken away from me? And it was devastating, and it nearly killed me.
Yeah.
But also, who am I to tell God when to make people? And I don't know where the fine balance is between,
Yeah.
maybe you don't have enough energy or money to have another baby, so maybe you shouldn't, and you should take responsibility for your choices. But also, this is a choice that creates a whole person.
I know. A brand new life.
And
A
some
living,
people
yeah.
try to have babies and they can't.
Yeah.
So when people tell me that it's my own fault I have a bunch of kids, I'm like, is it though? Because there are people out there paying for IVF and they can't seem to get a baby.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Right.
I'm not really trying to have all these babies. They just happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom used to say, if I could figure out what caused it, I could.
My grandfather had 5 daughters,
Yeah.
and he said of his wife, if I'd have known she was full of kids, I wouldn't have married her.
Grandpa's, right?
He was funny.
Yeah.
Yes. And he had 5 girls and never got a boy. And when his 4th one was born, he was still an active alcoholic.
Oh.
And he had a black eye from a bar fight. And he was out in the waiting room when the doctor came to tell him that his 4th child was born. And at the time, there was a commercial for tobacco products or cigarettes.
Uh-huh.
And the slogan was, "I'd rather fight than switch."
Oh
I guess, sometime in the early 60s. And the doctor said, well, Ron, you have another daughter. And he goes, I'd rather fight than switch. I grew up with those 5 girls as my mom and my aunts. Four aunts.
Ants are great though, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I had 4 aunts, and then on my dad's side, he only had 1 brother, and he doesn't even hardly have a relationship with him.
Oh, wow.
So I figure I must be very blessed because I just keep having all these kids.
You are.
So when my kids fight with each other, I'm like, you guys, you are going to be the only people who understand what it was like to grow up in your family.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life, you should love each other.
Yeah. I think that the mom who had the 8 kids, do you remember her on TV?
The Octomom.
Not her.
Not her.
This was a nurse who actually had 8 children at the same time. And she had such a structure.
Was it Kate Goslin?
Yes. Yeah.
She had like 2, and then she had 6 more, right?
Yes. Yes. And she did really well with the structure. And that, honestly, it teaches kids security.
Yeah.
And balance too, because when I do this, this happens.
Yeah.
And throughout the day, like I eat lunch, then I do my dishes, or if I misbehave, I get this kind of a
Yeah.
And so it builds self-confidence and gives them a sense of security.
She was very organized.
Yeah, she really was.
I'm not.
I wonder where she's at now with the kids. It makes me
I don't know.
wonder.
They're
at
all
times.
older.
Yeah.
They're all just about grown up now, I think.
Yeah.
I am not. Actually, the way that I've survived having all these kids, especially as many little ones as I have, is being really flexible. Nap times are flexible. Nursing is whenever they want to. Sometimes I'm too flexible.
Well, you could build up a lot of anger if you're not. You know what I mean?
It is really
No.
hard.
Your nap should have been
Yeah,
at
it is
2
hard.
o'clock. And now it's 2:15 and you're not in bed, or you're not as... So you can build up anger by having structure too. So I don't know what the balance is. Somewhere in between there, there's got to be a good balance.
When Tanner started going to work nights, this is when I'm glad that I'm flexible with... I can work with things. I can change without... I don't have to be rigidly on my own schedule. So he started going to work nights. And that meant that everything had to change for us.
Yeah.
And then me being pregnant, I'm really too tired to be like, I don't know. Let's just say we have a functioning household. It is not clean. It is operational. It gets mostly cleaned up before it gets messed up again. There's usually clean dishes. Are the counters cleaned off? No. As soon as they're cleaned off, something's on them again.
Yeah.
The sink is usually not clean. As soon as it's cleaned out, something happens and it's dirty again. So we never have this moment where it's like, okay, the house is clean and the kids are doing lessons and they're all in clean clothes and their hair is brushed and whatever.
Right.
But nobody's getting any diseases from filth. Like it's constantly in flow.
Yeah.
We're functioning. And I'm trying to get them to bed earlier. We're trying to do 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'm yelling and screaming by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because they're
quite
not
honestly,
going.
Yeah, because you do need your time.
I'm trying to get them to go to bed by 10 o'clock. And if I get up to go to the bathroom at midnight and I hear them, I'm like, go to bed.
Now we know we got something to pray for, right?
I'm trying to get them to just go and be in the dark by 10 so that their brain will start to shut down earlier, because they were looking really, especially my teenagers, they were looking exhausted. They were staying up until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And the thing is, they fight all day long. They fight all day long so bad. I want to take a screwdriver to my ear. They fight all day long. I'm like, just make it stop, please. And I tune it out. They go, Mom, did you hear? Nope, didn't hear.
Yeah.
And I mean it. I didn't hear.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you didn't hear? It was right in front of you. I didn't hear it. I'm surviving. I am trying to survive.
Yeah.
But at night, they're best buddies. And they're talking all night long.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, go to sleep.
Right.
Go to sleep.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they're best buds. I hear them chit-chatting downstairs when I get up to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, what are you doing? Go to sleep.
Yeah. My older sisters were best friends, and they did majorette and cheerleading and all that stuff together. And then Mom had 2 sons after that, and they did basketball and football and all those things together. And then Robin, when she came along, she had nobody. You know what I mean? She was just kind of off to herself. And I don't know. It's kind of the way I see your family structured, a lot like how mine.
I've got one that feels really lonely.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
feels like nobody. Well, actually, 2. The 9-year-old feels like there's nobody in her realm.
Right.
She's always really upset. The older 2 get to do things that she doesn't get to do. She feels it's very unfair. And I'm like, there's a big age gap.
Yeah.
You're not a teenager. They are.
Yeah.
And I expect a lot out of them.
Right.
And sometimes you still act like you make baby-like decisions. You make child-like decisions. So you're not getting the same privileges.
Right.
So she's kind of in a category by herself at 9 years old. And then Lincoln is about to turn 6. And I think it was just this morning, he came into the bathroom while I was trying to brush my teeth. And he goes, nobody wants to play with me. And I said, play with Winona. I don't want to play with Winona. She never plays what I want to play. She doesn't listen. Well, that's true. Winona doesn't listen.
Yeah.
She does whatever she wants. Oh, yeah.
When you first called her your feral child, I about lost it. I thought that was so.
She is.
Yeah.
She is. And she's my first curly-haired child. And I don't know how to keep curly hair looking nice.
Uh-huh.
The back of it gets really matted. Anywhere she sits.
Yeah.
Even if I brush it before I put her in the car, the car seat turns it to knots.
I would say that detangle is what I used for my granddaughters, and especially my youngest one had really tight curly hair, and it's just at Dollar Tree, but doing the spray detangle, and it's easier on them too, to get their hair brushed by having a detangle there.
Yeah, I put water in it and try to brush it out. Tanner's the one with curly hair, but he doesn't know how to take care of his curly hair either.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of winging it. We didn't have curly hair in my family.
Right. Yeah.
Well, my brothers might, but they're boys. They kept it short.
Mm-hmm.
And Tanner's growing his out. And I just asked him today, I was brushing his hair out, and it is an operation to brush the tangles out of his hair. And I said, do you condition this? And he goes, no. What?
Oh, wow.
What are you doing? I'm standing here trying to untangle this bird's nest.
Right.
And you're not conditioning your hair. You got to condition your hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every day is a challenge for all of us, isn't it? Whether it's brushing hair or what.
Yeah, those basic things for me as a mom,
Yeah.
those are hard for me to keep up with.
Yeah. And I would say just knock them out in the morning, and then you don't have to deal with it the rest of the day, really, unless you're going somewhere and then freshen up. But, you know, that was my best time. But I had 2. I didn't have 7.
We wake up at the same time in the morning.
Yeah.
With Tanner working nights and them staying up all night, I usually actually am the first one up.
Yeah.
And then I'm up, and then the baby's up, and then she's kind of groggy, and she's whiny, and she wants cereal, and she wants cartoons, and she wants whatever. She's
Right.
whatever. It varies morning to morning. And then they start to trickle in one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
So my brain is like,
Yeah, I'm not a morning person either. I don't know of too many. There's quite a few in our group, but I always use the excuse that I'm Hebrew. That's why I sleep in. And
But you're Hebrew?
Yeah. Because we're
Hebrews sleep in?
nomadic, you know. And to me, I just think that nighttime is a cooler time to have moved in the summer, and they were probably up a little later than. I don't know. I can excuse it out, but I just really appreciate you coming today and sharing your testimony and sharing your day-to-day life. That was beautiful that you gave us a little window of that. And I'm sorry for all the things that you had to go through I'm not sorry that I met you. I think you're a wonderful person. You're so genuine and so hungry for God. And that shows through.
Aw.
And so, anyway, thank you again for coming today. I
Thank you for
really
having me.
appreciate it. And I just want to just say I've got a new remote control for my camera.
That's really
and it's
cool.
on my wrist. And so I have to get it ready. So that was why I hesitated. And I'm sorry that doesn't make good TV, does it? But enjoy God's journey
Yes.
along the way.